Professor fails me because my group went ghost during group project. So, I was in a speech class, it was my last semester. Completely online due to COVID. Our professor assigned us a group speech that we were to record and send to him by the due date. I thought it would be easy enough as he gave us 2 weeks to work on it and group speeches weren't anything new to me. He even made separate discussion boards for our groups that we could use to communicate. This project was worth 30% of our grade, so failing this project meant you would pretty much fail the course. I wanted to get it done early so we wouldn't have to worry about it, so I immediately post a message to everyone in the group asking when they were free to do a Zoom meeting to discuss the project. No reply for a few days by any of them. I then post again. This time a little sterner, as it didn't seem any of them cared enough to even reply at all. I waited a few more days. At this point we only had a week left before it was due, so I just divided up the work and posted what everyone would need to write their portion of the speech about and gave them a date/time that I would be holding a Zoom meeting for the final recording to send the professor. Still no reply. It was now the day before the speech was to be recorded and 2 days before the speech was due, and my group members had not made an attempt to make contact in any form at all, so I did the only thing I could think of and emailed my professor explaining the situation. But I assumed he would not reply because throughout the entire semester, it took him over a week to reply to any emails I had sent him. I then did the entire group project on my own, which took me the entire night with no sleep. After I finished writing everyone's speech, it was around the time I had scheduled the Zoom meeting to record. I joined it out of amusement, knowing nobody in my group would be there. Sure enough, it was empty. So, I did the entire speech myself, but the rubric really put emphasis on transitioning to our other group members, including saying their name. So, between every section where it would cut to a different member, I would say something like, "And now, my name, will explain the importance of blah blah," then mute my screen briefly as if to add a cut, put on a different hat, and continue the speech. I did this for all 6 portions of the speech. I turned in the speech shortly after and filled out the group member roll sheet that was due as well. I just put my name in every box that was supposed to be a different member. A week passes and I see he graded the project, still not replying to my previous email about the situation BTW, and he gave me a 0 stating it was supposed to be a group project and me doing it solo meant I did not follow instructions. I was actually infuriated by this and knew that emailing him about the grade was as good as useless, so I went straight above him to the board of the college and explained to them what happened. They apologized and said the situation would be resolved, and within a few hours of me talking to the board, he had replied to my email 3 times stating that he was sorry for the miscommunication about the project and that my grade would be corrected. Scolded me for going above him, saying I should have just emailed him again if I couldn't get in contact with my classmates, and putting the blame on me for not trying harder to reach out to them. The next semester, I saw that he was no longer with the school. My guess is that it was a habit of his to not reply to emails and he got fired for it. Also, his corrected grade was a 70. But I was so mentally exhausted from the situation at that point that I didn't care to fight it anymore.
Now to the comments. I once got an A on a debate. Solo. My partner realized very quickly that debate wasn't for him, and ghosted on both me and the class, but not until the day of our first debate. I'd had 0 participation from him, so just in case, I did all of the work on our position, and on the day of, I was offered the assistance of the teacher's aide to present, but I chose to go it alone, and got an A.
I once passed a debate I hadn't practiced by simply showing up and speaking my mind. Because I was the only one in our 5-man group that showed up, I had to debate our teacher, but it was honestly pretty fun.
I had a debate project I really didn't care about, but stuck through it to not screw over the others. Part of the grade was to show your prep work. When I had done none, can't remember the topic, but it was something that I didn't really need to do any prep for, and honestly most people probably could have half-assed it and done reasonably well, and I'd rather respond directly to a point instead of rehearsing a point. Just wrote on the sheet I didn't do any prep work, as my approach to a debate is to actually listen to the opposition instead of rehearsing what I'm saying next. Professor thanked me for the honesty, said he was giving me credit anyway because my performance in the debate was good. I got AA+ for doing a group project solo once. Teacher was furious and demanded I got their grades. I had no idea college was like Highlander and you could go around absorbing grades. Edit, thanks for all the awards wojis, most upvotes I've gotten neat 01. No, I did not have to cut anyone's head off. No weapons on campus. 2. The whole situation was a 5-person assignment for administration of law. I got everyone's information, numbers and emails. When everyone agreed to meet at the library and never showed up, I just worked on the project. I made a PowerPoint and went all out. On the day of presentation, the professor asked the groups to stand and show their work. I was the only solo presenter and after class had a talk about the situation, so, I got a boost to my grade for doing extra work. 3. Love your comments, hard to respond to everything with all the family and their dogs visiting. Good night and again thank you for the awards and stories, interesting, hilarious, and infuriating.
I got an A for not doing the final group project in my small group communication class. The professor said that since my group was failing to communicate and was leaving me to do all the work all the time, that I could skip the project. She said that it was clearly the only way they would learn how to communicate with each other and stop depending on me or others. She told me that instead of the group project, my task was to establish boundaries and tell people no, and to stop trying to cover for people. That was my biggest obstacle in group communication and that was what I needed to learn most. My group mates bombed the final project and eventually realized that they were being graded on their ability to communicate, and they failed. I learned something and improved, so I got an A. I miss that class.
Great professor. Many professors believe that group projects are the closest you'll find to the real world. And they're probably right. If they include real-world accountability. Where they go off track is when they fail to account for the fact that the individual student is paying for the class and should receive a grade based on their specific contributions and achievements. After all, there's no such thing as a group transcript or a group degree. It's unfair and unreasonable to punish a diligent student for the inaction of lazy students if they haven't simultaneously provided a mechanism for the diligent student to hold their lazy peers accountable. If one person manages to produce an adequate result in spite of others not doing their part, I'd give them maximum credit. If they produce a superior result, I'd give extra credit. If they were unable to produce a viable result and could demonstrate that this was primarily because others refused to participate, I'd simply not count that assignment as part of their final grade.
My university thought it would be a good idea to make us work together with people on a lab practical. We would be there during different times, weren't allowed to meet, part of the time was an actual lockdown, or even take our phones with us to the lab. So essentially, you could tell them what you did after you were there, but essentially you just had to hope for the best. They also made us write a portfolio together. The stupid part about this is that there were a lot of people in the lab at the same time and we could have easily cooperated with each other, and did.
That's infuriating. Reminds me of one 12-week project I was assigned to when at university, and this particular class was remote. I spent 6 weeks of the semester attempting to contact anyone in the group I had been assigned to before finding out belatedly that they had all dropped out of the course in the first week and none of the course coordinators or lecturers had deigned to inform me of that fact.
My university has the same issue. No one gets notified if someone drops a class, and their name stays on the roster. So once 3 people dropped from a 6-person project, and my anxious potato self almost had a panic attack, and we had to do 1.5 times the work 1 week before the deadline.
I had a group project like this in my databases course. One guy dropped off the face of the planet, and this other person couldn't even be bothered to edit the sample code I found for her, so I did it all. Fast forward to the end of the semester, I have walking pneumonia and still came in to do the presentation sitting the entire time because standing was too strenuous. QA time, my instructor goes, "Thank you Yetsidarix," turns to group mate. "What exactly did you do all semester?" She failed and graduated a semester late. Fast forward to our software engineering course a year later and I have that person in my group again. Day 1 I'm talking about how I will intentionally fail this course and graduate with a degree in mathematics, on time, instead of computer science. If they slack and she pipes up, don't test him, he'll do it.
That's so embarrassing for her. Did she even respond to his question?
Mostly just stuttered and said something about how she worked on that one file that was returned to me broken.